some litigation. I mean, maybe right before the case goes to trial, but generally everything's handled remotely.
Wow.
So it's really nice, and like really far in advance, so that's even better. But
so how?
Go ahead, just don't say anything that's incriminating.
I just get, I used to do television news. I get nervous sometimes.
See?
Yeah, because they're always, Mike's all right, stop talking.
And you're staring at it.
And then, like, you have had the folks where that one time they did say something they shouldn't have said, and it's like
those horror videos that you can see. Yeah.
Like, I knew one lady, they came back early. Something happened with the commercial, and they had to come back early. She was just full length, middle of conversation, just telling all her business. And it sounded like she cursed. And she got in like a whole lot of trouble. She said she didn't curse, but
was it
tomato,
really
tomato.
bad cursing, or?
It was one word.
I just feel like if that's the worst thing, like, it's not ideal. Although I guess you're on live TV or public television type things, so that's going to be more of a problem.
Yeah. Well, she said, I said fake.
Oh, got it. I just got misheard, I guess. Yeah.
And, I was rewinding it back, and I was like, is that fake?
That quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I'm just sitting back, and I'm just like, man, just trying to, like, yeah, y'all aren't going to get me.
Have you ever watched Veep before on HBO?
Which one?
Veep.
Mm-mm.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's hilarious. It's satire, but it so closely parallels kind of what's happening now.
I'm the streaming services guy. Is it on their stream?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, you know that. It ended a while ago, but it's what's her name? Dreyfus. I always forget her name. Her full name.
I'm gonna go check it out.
She's on Seinfeld.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really funny. But there's one where she's on a news show, and then when he's taking stuff off, she's just talking with the person who's interviewing her, and she says something that, like, isn't inherently bad, but like taken out of context is bad. And her bad guy goes over later. She's like, did I hear a little glitching? He's like, no, but I heard it. Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. Oh, that's so
It's
crazy.
a really funny comedy. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. My wife's been on the binges top model stuff again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We watched Parasite last night.
Okay.
And it won at the film festival, the King's Film Festival. It was really good. I just like unique.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they redo everything over and over again.
That's what I'm getting tired of. If they find something that made money once, it's like,
Oh yeah.
do it
Yeah.
again, do it again. It's like, give me something creative.
Yeah, it was good. It was written, I think he's Chinese based on the names. But it was really good.
Yeah, like if they reboot another Spider-Man movie.
I just don't like Marvel movies that much. I like the anti-heroes, so I like the Deadpool, who was the other one? Venom. Venom was the other one. Those are the ones that I like, the anti-heroes.
I feel like there was so much more they could have done with Venom too. I liked it overall. It was really good.
I think they signed him up for a couple more.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe they were like slow because they were introducing it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So I was just like, yeah.
But there's so much stuff on streaming. I've been trying to get my husband to go off of cable, whatever, the satellite thing.
Yeah.
But with sports, I know they have contracts usually with those guys for decades. So I don't know how they're going to do it to streaming.
Well, you can do YouTube TV. They have all, and I'll have all the sports up too.
Really?
Yeah, because that's what I do sometimes. I'll just opt in for like a month. I don't watch it enough to want all the cable, but like during football and stuff.
That's exactly right. It's like college football.
Because it's like, I think it's like $30 a month or something like that. So.
And you can go on and off. It's not like long-term contracts.
Oh. So I'll hop on for a little while, and if I know, because I remember one time my wife was so mad, but I did it for like a month. I was like, yeah. She was like, you could have. Did you really have to paid $30 for YouTube just to watch one. I was like, hey, sorry. I mean, I would have spent $30 going to a sports bar.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Easy.
Yeah, I'm going to
Easy.
get a couple of beers, get some nachos.
Exactly.
Boom. $30.
Yep.
You know, at least this one I'm sitting
All right.
at home.
About to roll the intro.
Okay.
Mics are hot. We're live streaming. All right. Camera rolling, audio rolling. Going in the intro. We good. 5, 4, 3, 2.
What's going on, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of Beyond the Brand with me, Dante Carter. And today I'm really excited about the guest that I have. This is Kathryn Burmeister. Kathryn, I'm so happy that you can join us. She is an author, an attorney, a speaker, a pet lover. You've got what?
Five cats and a dog.
5 cats and a dog.
Yep. Keeps the house full.
Yeah. I mean, but that's like parenting too.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. Even my friends that have kids are like, up until about 3 years old, it's pretty much the same level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I feel like when it comes to my kid and my 2 dogs, it's like, I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing?
Or
What
maybe
are
just
you-
chaos.
Yeah, I mean, she wants to get on and she wants to ride my pit like my pit's a horsey, and
No, let's
I'm
not.
like, yeah, it doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah.
Kylie, back away. But you know, I really get excited about having people on that have a story. You know, you're an established business owner, you're an attorney, you're when I hear your story, I see you as a thought leader and an influencer in your space. I mean, but just tell me where that all came from, where that drive came from, and really betting on yourself.
Yeah, so I'm an only child,
Mhm.
and I'm really close with my folks still. We've had a great relationship, and my dad is a very all or nothing kind
Oh,
of
can you bring your
person.
mic up a little bit, sir?
There we go. All or nothing kind of person. And he really instilled that idea of doing your best no matter what. And so I always saw that. I grew up with that around me, and that's what always motivated me to do my best. And then as I got older, I really kind of set my sights on what I wanted to do. And my folks always encouraged me, you know, you can literally do whatever you want. So in middle school, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. No lawyers in the family. So I just was really drawn to the idea of helping others and giving people that don't have a voice. So in particular, the letters from a Birmingham jail, even though Martin Luther King wasn't a lawyer, the fact that he was able to make a difference with, you know, taking action and then using the position of being a lawyer, in particular with To Kill a Mockingbird, that was really appealing to me. So those 2 books I love to read really influenced me in wanting to go that route. And then from there, I'm very much a planner.
Yeah.
So I kind of backtracked, like, how do I get to be a lawyer? What do I need to do now? And so I started exposing myself to law firms in my senior year in high school.
Wow.
And so really, I didn't know where I wanted to be in the law, but it gave me an idea of sometimes where I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
It was a learning experience every time, but I started out in small law, and then I went to a medium-sized firm, and then I was able to work big law. And again, realized where I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to belong. So my last year in law school was where I got exposed to personal injury. And that really fills the void for me about being able to give people a voice. That dichotomy of a big insurance company and just an individual who's been hurt, it's the David and Goliath mentality.
Yeah.
So that really is rewarding.
And it's rewarding, but it also just speaks to the fact that you can actually hear them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because so many people are in pain, and those voices, they go unheard. And so the fact that you're able to hear those voices and not only say, I hear you, but it's, well, let me do something about that. Let me help you. And I just think that's so impactful about the work that you do. And I was just curious, was there ever a central figure that kind of stood out to you when you were coming up and saying, I want to be an attorney? Was it Was it someone you saw on TV? Was there a movie? Because it's like going into this space. You've got to have that I'm a fighter mentality. There is there's nothing. You can't be scared of breaking barriers as an attorney.
I think growing up, kids are kids, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, they can be harsh, and I kind of did my own thing, and so I always felt like I had to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
So that feeling of not backing down and being true to who I wanted to be, I think motivated me to continue that. And then when I feel passionately about something, I have always had a very strong sense of what's right, and what's true and just. And it may not be the socially acceptable thing or the easy way, but to me that doesn't matter. It matters what's quote unquote right.
Yeah.
So I've had that strong sense of justice from a young age, and I don't know if that's just my parents were instilled it in me or a combination of me and them, but that's what really motivated me, and that's why To Kill a Mockingbird spoke to me, and the letters from a Birmingham jail, just how much you can do when you know what's right, and you also, rightly or wrongly, have that position of authority as being an attorney. I'm also a very empathetic person, so I think that's probably why I was drawn to animal rescue. But even with the people, just really tuning into how do they feel, or how, even if I haven't experienced the exact same thing, just I can understand how they would feel a certain way. And to me, being authentic is just paramount to who I am as an individual. And being authentic with my clients and really tapping into how they've been affected is important to me because they want to be heard.
Yeah. What was it about, even with the animal rescue, that made you say, you know what, there's a need for me here. Let me be here. Let me allow, because you're really speaking for a group that can't speak for themselves. Right. And what made you say, you know what, I want to step into this space. I want to help.
I think it was early on exposing myself to the atrocities, because quite frankly they are, that happen to animals, all different types, whether it be wild, captive, domestic. Your dogs and cats are typically what people are most familiar with. Just really, again, having that sense of what's right and what's wrong. It's very wrong to abuse and exploit an animal, and that rocked me to my core when I saw a lot of the things that occurred. So doing what I could to help that, even if it was just dogs and cats, rescuing them, standing up for them, trying to get them in better situations. Again, they can't communicate with us, but you can understand that they don't want to be in certain situations and are affected by it. So that just really, that empathy really spoke to me also in the animal world too.
Yeah. Because it always, when I sit back, like even, the first time, what was it, about 2 weeks ago when you and I sat down, and I just kept sitting down thinking just, wow, like there was just so much to you, and not just the impact that you've made, but the impact that you want to make. And even just coming up in what's really still a male-dominated industry, laying down the cement of your foundation there and just continuing to not just grow, but continue to thrive. And I think what I get so excited about is, just so much of my view is changing because, now it's not just my wife and I, but it's, my wife and I and my daughter.
Right.
And it's, so when I see people out there and they're kicking these doors down, because that's what I see.
Yeah.
I see you kicking these doors down, and I'm just like, wow, you know what? My daughter's going to be able to, see Kathryn. She's going to be able to hug her. Just all of these images that you just hope and pray that your kid has,
right.
And so just knowing that's also a legacy you're creating, what does that mean?
I've never thought about it that way because I think I shared with you before, my husband and I decided not to have kids about 5 years ago. So I've never really thought about things in a legacy format. But that is so important to me to think about, that I could have an influence on your daughter, or, any other daughter or son out there.
Yeah.
I just have never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I guess I'm so focused on areas that I can improve in, and ways that I can better myself. I never thought like, oh, I'm a thought leader and I'm impacting people's lives. I'm just more
I guess, humble, and maybe
Yeah.
I need to own a little bit more of what I have, what I can do and
Yeah.
how I can influence people. But that's powerful. And I've always been encouraged, like I said, with my parents, that it was never, you're a girl, so you shouldn't do this, or, you can't go into this industry. And my dad worked for Delta for 40 some odd years. My mom was a homemaker.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was a pretty traditional household, but it wasn't, I was never told that I couldn't do anything. And so I think that's where it really starts. And the fact that you encourage your daughter and other people encourage their children to say, you can do literally whatever you want. It's not going to be easy, but you have the capacity if you really want it.
Yeah, and what I love is because, and so I just think from a distance. And so the only reason, I had brought up the legacy point is because just even from a distance, as I'm raising my daughter, I can still point to you, know, because when I'm looking at LinkedIn and I'm looking at Facebook and I'm like, holy crap, she's doing a ton. And I mean, these are, I'm so aware of just what I say to my daughter, and I'm just aware to the point of I might hold back or refrain from speaking or saying a certain thing because I don't want to discourage her,
Right.
But the fact that I am able to say, okay, you can look at all of these women who blaze trails, and I mean, you don't just inspire her. I mean, you inspire me too. You know what I'm saying? And so, just being able to be able to point and say, look, you anything that you want, it's possible, it's achievable. And I mean, I think that's even the part that I love the most. And I sit back and we're talking about all these things, and I'm just like, well, where in the world did she find time to write a book?
Yeah, the whole free time part of it. I don't know. In fact, I just talked to my ghostwriter who I'm working with on this, and we're looking for a launch date in May. Wow. Which is kind of crazy, but exciting. Mental Health Awareness Month is in May. Yeah. And so that's why I really thought it'd be a good tie-in with that. Huge proponent of mental health. Everybody can benefit from it. Mm-hmm. We don't give enough time and effort, I think, to our own mental health like we do our physical health. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know where the end is for me, but I know along the way there's these different goals that I want to accomplish. And if it gives me an opportunity to be in front of people to change their perception, or even just open their mind to a thought that they may not have even considered because they haven't been exposed before, I feel like I will have done what I'm meant to do. Yeah. I just have always had that strong sense of I need to do something. I need to give back. Yeah. I've been very, very fortunate and very blessed. It sounds cliche, but very blessed to have a great family that have supported me, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents. And I feel like if you are in your life and you've had those opportunities, it's imperative to give back where you can. So I feel like being able to help people through what I've learned is the best way to do it, even if it's challenging in my spare time, again, running a business and also writing a book, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
And so let's talk a little bit about mental health, right? Sure. And just your thoughts on it, because for me, I'm in full agreement with you. I think it's something that's needed. And I think some of the biggest issues that I see is people, they don't value trauma. And I say they don't value trauma because it's like things happen to us, and bad things happen to good people all the time. Right. But what do you do about those bad things? Because, I know for me, I got into a habit of, okay, it just happened. Let me move on. Let me move forward. But I found myself still carrying the scars from that trauma. And so, when you go into these spaces and you're talking about mental health, what is the point that you hope resonate with the folks that you're sharing with?
Yeah, so first of all, I want people to know they're not alone. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have a formal diagnosis to work on mental health or benefit from working on your own mental health. And I think people think that it has to be a traumatic event or one major catalyst that, brings you to the point of self-improvement, and it doesn't. Every day we encounter stressors and challenges and hurdles, and it adds up, like you said, if you're not processing it. And even if you are, it can be draining, but especially if you're not processing it. So first of all, that people aren't alone. We're all in it together to different degrees. And also that there are ways to start looking at helping yourself. I think a lot of people, we've come very far in terms of therapy and our perceptions about therapy, but I still think a lot of people see it as a weakness. They think that you should be able to handle it on your own. If you're talking to somebody, that means you can't hack it. And the reality is we have so many stressors in this world. They're different than what they were 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but they're still stressors.
Yeah.
And that you have to start somewhere. So even just acknowledging that you have these stressors is a place to start. So I want to reach people where they are. I don't want them to say, or want to tell them that you have to be in therapy through the Georgia Bar Association, because people that aren't familiar with it aren't going to feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So saying, here are ways to identify how you're being impacted, and here are ways to start shifting your perspective and your thinking. I'm not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but I know what has worked for me and different tools that I can kind of kept in an arsenal that when I've run into challenges, I can work on my own.
And so, and I love how you were able to put it all together, but for the folks who are sitting on the outside, they're like, well, Kathryn has it all together. She's done X, Y, and Z. What do you share with them from that? Because, I think even when it comes to, because, people are so used to hearing about managing your time, but, not too many people talk about managing your sanity,
Right.
keeping yourself in that right space. How do you manage it all? How do you do those practical things that keep you in good standing?
Yeah, the biggest thing I've learned most recently is really balancing my life. And I know people say it all the time, and it's hard. There's not one size fits all, first of all. Second of all, it's not every day that you're going to have equally dedicated time to everything in your life. But generally speaking, be conscious of what matters to you. So to me, my job matters to me, my business. I love what I do. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't. My self-care is crucial to my well-being and success.
Yeah.
And then my family and my friends. Those are the three parts of my life that are they make me who I am.
Yeah.
So keeping a balance, making sure I make appointments with my friends. And it sounds silly to make an appointment, but we're all so busy.
Yeah.
If you don't, you won't do it. And then it'll
Yeah.
be months and months and months, and you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't even seen this person, and I love
Yep.
them so much.
That's so true.
Texting's good, but still not sitting down and just, having dinner together. So really being conscious of that has helped me. But before that, I had a hard time balancing, or even coming remotely close to what I was comfortable balancing. I have always been an overachiever, A-type. I was never enough. That is literally the phrase that was, just constantly in my head. I don't know if you have most people have a internal voice of some sort, whether it's their own voice or some other voice that they hear. And it was my own voice, but it was always, well, you could do better, or you could do more, and it's not enough. And when you hear that for so long, you start to believe it. It was self-imposed. There was really no basis for it, but in my mind, I just needed to do more and do better. And so for so long, I wasn't happy with the balance that I had, or any failure that came along or setback just absolutely unhinged me.
Yeah.
And the reality is nobody's perfect, right? Nobody can ever be perfect. But shifting my mindset from, where am I deficient to what am I able to do, and how can I learn from those challenges and setbacks? I think that's the biggest thing. And then I think I mentioned to you the other week, one of the biggest things that's happened to me my entire life happened a couple of years ago with my former partner committing suicide.
Yeah.
And that, it was traumatic anyway, but then running a business with another associate for a year, another law firm, it was a lot emotionally, business day to day. It just took a toll on me. And I finally hit rock bottom, which is the title of my book, Rock Bottom Not Required, because you shouldn't have to hit that point in your life before you start setting those boundaries. So for myself, that really, for whatever reason, that point was the crux of where I was able to shift my perspective and say, I am enough. I have gone through so much
Yeah.
and so many challenges to get to where I am. And at that point, I think what it really was I had proven to myself
Yeah.
I was enough. And you shouldn't have to go through that to start setting boundaries in your life and really taking back control of how you want to live in
Yeah.
this life.
You know, I really appreciate the vulnerability,
Yeah.
you know, because it just adds context to who you are. And I know it's not always easy, especially being live and, you know, going into detail. But, again, it just shows that context, you know, because I think so many people see our exteriors and
Right.
they're just like, oh, man, like, you know, I get it all the time. You know, I grew up in a single-parent household, single-parent working-class household. And it's like, so when I walk around in the suit, it's people could just, no, that's not you. You grew up in the suburbs and
Right.
different things. I'm just like, okay, well, I'll put on a T-shirt and some jeans every now and then and try to mix it up. But, you know, and I heard what you were saying about kind of the things that led up. But when was it, do you think, when was that point where you were just like, you know what, I need to write this book. This is going to help somebody.
Yeah, so I had actually been in contact with my говostwriter right after everything happened with my former partner committing suicide. And it was so raw then, and it was such a traumatic story, what led up to that it just wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
It wasn't the right time for anybody involved. And then about a year later, after I had gone out on my own, I was with some girlfriends at a cabin, and my friend was asking me, like, hey, have you thought any more about doing that? And of course, just my personality type, again, being humble, be like, nobody wants to read that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that big of a deal. And, but she mentioned that, and so I started thinking about it, and literally not a week later, Candy Cross reached out to me, my ghostwriter, and I hadn't talked to her in a year. So it was very fortuitous that my friend brought it up and Candy reached out, and I felt like it was a good time. It was far enough removed from the situation that I
Yeah.
could be a little more objective, but not so far removed that I didn't remember all the pain and frustration and heartache that went into that whole time of my life. So that was really when I realized it could be something. And I think really when I started shifting from thinking about as a story that was John Grisham meets Jerry Springer,
Yeah.
and what can I do with it? Because, yeah, it's an interesting, compelling story, but I don't want it to just be about the bad stuff that happened to everybody involved, myself, clients, everything. I wanted to make something positive come out of
Yeah.
it. Because, unfortunately, we weren't able to make positive things come out of that for a lot of people, and that was, I can't even tell you the feeling I had when clients would call and you literally can't do anything for them. Even though it wasn't my fault, I literally had no control over it. It wasn't the partner that I was working for at that time's fault. It was our old partner. It makes you physically sick, or at least for me it did, because I literally could not do anything to fix it. That really weighs on you. So being able to take that, put it into a story that's compelling, but also has a message, and give back to people. What I've also wanted to do with it, I mean, fingers crossed, it goes well and everything, is received well by the public. If I do really well, I'd love to give back money to, whether it's professionalism with attorneys or mental health care with attorneys, ways to prevent this from a situation like that from ever happening again to people.
Yeah. I mean, and so many of those, it's so tough because there are so many elements that are just out of your hands.
Yeah.
There are just so many things that you can't do. And I guess that's probably, for me, that can be the toughest part of life is, okay, well, I'm a fighter. I like to get things done, but when those things are just so outside of your reach, what do you do? And that's why, and I know I probably said this like 12 times already, but that's why I'm just so inspired by it, because, there are so many people that moment in their life derails them and sets them back, months, years. And, just somehow in the midst of the storm, you found a good boat and a good sail and you were able to navigate yourself back.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, and then it's like, so when you talk about the good things that came out, I think people hearing about how you were able to get out, because a lot of times people don't know how to get out.
Right. So I think a lot of things led up to that particular moment in my life. Now that I can look back on it,
Yeah.
I I dealt with some depression in high school. I think that's when I first remember it kind of manifesting.
Mhm.
And then when I got into college, there's a lot that changes in college,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you know, and the pressures being an overachiever. So I think that's when the anxiety started to come out. I had my first panic attack my freshman year in college. So being very aware of things, and I'm very much a fixer. Like,
Yeah.
I want to fix it.
Yeah.
So I immediately started doing research about it and like why this happened and what can I do to prevent it or at least deal with it. So I really immersed myself in getting help with professionals, and then
Yeah.
also learning about what drove me to that or what triggered it or whatever the case may be, because nobody wants to go through that,
Yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, it's a chemical imbalance. So you can, like anything else, you know, with a medical condition, you find the tools. Do you need to work out more to, you know, lower your blood sugar? Do you need to, you know, do certain things that your doctor recommends? You know,
Yeah.
you find ways to mitigate the effects. It's not going to completely eliminate it. But I think that's my personality type, is very much a fixer. So freshman year in college, that's the first time I had the panic attack and was dealing with anxiety. I think the idea of doing well and doing above average, when that's your average, above average,
Yeah.
your standard's higher for
Yeah.
yourself, and you know, just that's how you've done it for so long. So you believe that anything short of that is a failure. And that's something else I want to do with the book, is reach people. I think a lot of people feel this way, but there's predominantly certain professions that feel this way. They're in a zero-sum game where if you're not winning, you're losing.
Yeah.
And you're a failure because you're losing. And that's just absolutely not true.
Yeah.
The world is gray.
Yeah.
It's not black and white, you know, as much as it'd be nice to compartmentalize it that way, but it's not.
Yeah.
So really coming to terms with my feelings, how mental health had impacted me, and acknowledging that it is a chemical imbalance. So you can't will yourself out of chemical imbalance. Like you
Yeah.
can't will yourself out of, I don't know, a medical condition, right? I mean, positive thinking always helps, but
Yeah.
it's not going to completely reverse it. So being aware of that, and then down the road when I started taking the LSATs, which is the, entrance exam for law school, I didn't do great on it. I didn't get into the top schools that I applied to initially because of my score, so that was a setback for me. That was the first time I really failed. So I went back, took it again, readjusted my perspective on the schools that I was applying to, got into where I wanted to go, which was Mercer, because I'd gone there for undergrad. Went there for law school, and then when it came to the bar exam, which is obviously the exam that gets you, licensed to be a lawyer, I didn't want to be a lawyer since middle school. My entire career, or ability to have a career, was hinging on one test.
Yeah.
And when I was so passionate about being a lawyer, it's not like, oh, I'll see what happens. This is literally my whole plan for the past however many years. So that pressure, it was huge. And for me, it was insurmountable the first time. I missed by 2 points in terms of passing the exam.
Yeah.
But I went back and I took it again, and I missed by 1 point. And I remember that second time just literally crumbling to the floor in my kitchen and just hurting so much, because I knew I could be a great lawyer. I'd worked in the legal field since high school. It's not that I couldn't be a lawyer, it was just getting past this test. And that's what was infuriating, because there were plenty of people that I knew were taking that test, and they knew the material, but whether they were going to go out there and be good lawyers for their clients was questionable, right? So, but I've always been a fighter. Like you mentioned that about yourself. I've always been a fighter, and I'm the only one that's going to be able to change it.
Yeah.
So I would always wonder what would happen if I didn't. So that's why I went back again. I really sat and evaluated, okay, is this what I really want, like to put myself through this again, but to be a lawyer, right? Yeah. And nothing else would make me feel the same way. I just couldn't think of anything. I love animals, and I'd love to work with animals, but really I want my hobby and passion to be separate from my career. Even though I'm passionate about my career, I wanted to keep it separate. So that's why I kept going. And that third time I passed.
Wow.
So yeah, it was very emotional.
Yeah. No, I can feel it.
Yeah.
Just kind of going back there. It just says so much about you, because I think, even sometimes people who aren't too familiar with the legal space, they can walk in and think, oh, PI, are they really going to help me? Are they really going to do this? And it's like, when you kind of go back and, as I'm listening to your story, it's like, wow, she's battled, she's fought, she's fixed. I mean, just so many, you know what I'm saying? So many different things that you've been able to do. And it's like, even the narrative that you're even able to create around, in the PI space, it's amazing. And so coming back, we mentioned that you were a speaker as well. And so I'm just curious, what are some of the topics that you like to speak on? Where do you kind of see where your voice can be best used in what spaces?
Right. So overcoming adversity, I think, is huge.
Oh, most definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the past, I would have thought like, oh, my adversity isn't that big, so I shouldn't talk about it. But everybody has their adversity.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of where you are and what your life is, is manifesting to you like at that time. So it can be different levels, right?
Yeah.
So overcoming adversity, perseverance for sure. Nothing comes easy.
Yeah.
If you really want it, it takes some struggling. And I don't think you should have to struggle to be successful, but I also think it teaches you that certain things are important and certain things aren't important.
Yeah.
Failing, to me, I don't think people fail. I think you have setbacks and you overcome them, right? Because again, that failing is that false dichotomy of either you're succeeding or you're failing. But it helps you realize what you can do. And it pushes you, it reaffirms what you want to do, but it also, shows you what you can do. So speaking to those things, and then also the idea that mental health is just crucial for everybody to live a better quality life. In my opinion, I'm a spiritual individual, but I don't know what's after this.
Yeah.
So to my line of thinking, I've only got one shot.
Yeah.
What can I do to make the most of it? And so living my best life, whatever that looks like, whatever that ends up being, but knowing that putting myself in a false dichotomy of winning or losing, putting so much pressure on myself that it's debilitating, or thinking that I'm a failure because I'm not living up to other people's expectation is not how I want to live my life, and that's not my best life. And I doubt it's anybody else's best life too.
Well, it's that whole aspect of the faith, the dare to be, the what's your dream and how are you going to get there. I mean, I just think all those things are so important. And it's so funny because I remember listening to Will Smith as he was on his little media tour for this latest Bad Boys. So he had the whole comment of, if you're going to fail forward. And then it was the whole, and I really appreciated his vulnerability, but it was the with The Rock. And so he was talking about how when he was out doing Bad Boys 2 and all these other things, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson wasn't doing all this other stuff. It wasn't until certain actors took a step back that he was able to kind of, lunge his career forward. And, he just kept thinking in his head, this is what made him really evaluate, his mental health and how he saw himself is. He was like, man, so-and-so did $100 million at the box office. I got to go top that. And it's like, you just, back to your point about those, that pressure, and being able to, I think sometimes you just, when I see somebody like Will Smith, I don't, in my mind, I don't think he fake. I'm like, you got your dream job, you're acting, you're making millions, it's like, maybe not getting a role is pressure, but I never just thought about the pressure of having to bring in a certain amount of money, for a box office. And so, I mean, when it comes down to it, whether you're jumping over a rock or if you've jumped over a creek, like, I think just taking that jump and that leap of faith is so huge, And I just sit back and I'm like, man, I'm listening to you and I'm wondering, should I write a book,
Well, that's the thing. Everybody has a story. And I mean, I think I discounted my story for so long.
Why do you think you did that?
I know why. It's because I've always felt like I don't have room to complain. I don't have room to think that I haven't been fortunate or blessed. So many people have it so much worse than I do, and I feel like in some sort of way that putting my story forward discounts the real turmoil that's happening to people, to the environment, to animals, everything, which is not true. Again, it's that false dichotomy. Like, it's not taking away. It's not like it's a finite amount of people caring, right? But I almost felt like there are more important stories that need to be told and heard. But again, if it gives me the ability to get in front of people and help those individuals, but also maybe use that platform to educate them about other things that I'm passionate about, why not?
But I think even with your story, though, I think it's special, and I'm going to tell you why. I think your story speaks to the fact that, you know what, it doesn't matter if you've got 2 loving parents in the household. It doesn't matter if all of your needs are met. Like, life still hits. It may not hit the same way as the person that might be wondering where the next meal is coming from, or where the how the rent's going to get paid. It may not hit the same way, but the fact is, life still hit you.
Right.
And I think what we're speaking on is kind of that duality of humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's still going to be these issues. But I think regardless of where you are, where God has allowed you to be, like, how do you overcome those challenges in your life?
Right.
There are people that I know that have had everything handed to them, and one day they just take their life, and I'm, in my head, I'm just like, how did you do that? Like,
Yeah.
you had well, there's obvious that something was going on there, and the people around them, me included, thought, oh, you've got everything, you're good. And
Yeah.
the reality is that's not true. And so that's why I think your story is so impactful, because you just don't know who needs to read your story, who needs to hear you speak.
And that's why, thankfully, after talking to my friends and
Yeah.
family and other attorneys, when I was kind of surveying, like, hey, what do you think about doing this as a story? Everybody was supportive.
Yeah.
Hands down supportive about it. Because I've been through some dark times.
Yeah.
I think really when I hit rock bottom, I'm kind of not being metaphorical about it.
Yeah.
Like, I was in a really dark place.
Mhm.
And I was going to therapy regularly. I have been on medication. That's perfect for me.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that you can have all those things lined up, and there are certain things in life that you can't predict, you can't account for, and are going to impact you. Especially when you want to do so well for yourself, for others, for people you don't even know. And when you feel like you're letting people down and letting yourself down, I mean, that is just a blow. Just almost lethal blow. I think that's where I hit.
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it perfect. And because of that was failing. And, to your point about so many people that have, quote unquote, have it all together, I'm really in tune with that. I'm very, very good, and I was for so long, about keeping a facade up. And I wasn't inauthentic, but I wasn't sharing that I was going through these things. Because I always thought, oh, nobody wants to hear it. They're going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I can't handle it. If you want to hide it and you want to keep that, facade going, people can do it. And so when people are saying, we had no idea, people that want to do things, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate that they've gotten to the point where they can't see themselves getting help.
Yeah.
So if one person out there realizes that, yes, you can, quote unquote, have it all and still have those moments, realize you're not alone. You really aren't alone, and it's not a weakness.
Yeah. It's a strength.
It's a strength.
Yeah.
Coming and standing up and saying, yes, this is what I experience, and I've been able to move through it and process it. I think that's the biggest thing, is people don't want to own it because it's so stigmatized. But the reality is everybody's dealing with it.
Yeah.
They won't admit it.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with it to varying degrees.
Yeah. And that's why you're strong, because you were strong enough to say, you know what, I have to get myself out of the way.
Yeah.
I have to look back, and whether it's going to sit down with a therapist, whether it's seeing what medication I need, it's being able to acknowledge that, hey, there's something that's, and I don't want to say broken inside, but something that's not together.
Right.
And just being authentic. I mean, I've been in that place where, and it's so funny, like, I'll sit down with my therapist, and he's like, okay, you need to write an angry letter about this person, an angry letter about that person. And I was like, I really don't want to write an angry letter about those people, because they've been there for me. He was like, but that doesn't mean they didn't hurt you.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part for me. I'm like, no, I got to be macho. You know what I've been through coming up? I'm hardcore.
Yeah.
It's like, you're broken, bro. And, that's that part where it's just like, it kind of hits hard, because it's like, you know what, I've got to be at a place where I can acknowledge that. And so I think, especially coming on a show like this where we really want to spotlight business owners and really hear their stories. You know, I think people just think it's, you open up a business, you bring your product or your service to the table, you sell it, you make money, you go home, and you know, there's like, kind of like you were mentioning, like there's no gray areas, either black or white, and it's like, no, it's all gray, it's all yellow and purple.
Yep, all the colors of the rainbow.
All the colors of the rainbow, and so.
And that's what's great. I mean, you know, it would be boring, first of all, if it was just black and white, and second of all, like, that's not who we are. We're all so different. Our lives, our journeys, our paths, whatever you want to call it, are so different. And that's why it's a different experience for everybody. But knowing that there's not a right way to do it, I think is huge. Yeah.
And I think when you get caught thinking that there's a right way to do this.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you really sell yourself short, because, I mean, you might be in a place where you're blazing a new trail, and you really prohibit yourself from doing that by thinking, well, I'm not doing it the same way as so-and-so. And I mean, that's why I love when you come on and so many other people come on and you're sharing their stories, and it's like you start to realize that, you know, everybody got to where they are differently, but they still got there. Yeah. And that's the important part. Yeah. You know?
Well, I even think about the fact that I mentioned the other week, I never won my own business. Never won my own law firm. Here I am with both, you know, and just incorporated for even being an author and a speaker, so a serial entrepreneur. Never thought in a million years.
I mean, that's good. So have you figured out the other forms of revenue? Because, you know, I was reading that book, and they were like, you need seven forms of revenue coming in to get to this big $sign mansion, $1 million legacy.
I don't need a mansion. I don't need a mansion. I'm comfortable and you know, doing well to be able to maintain that balance with other things in my life. But so doing the book is also cathartic, and I want to help other people, but also from a business perspective, it's a good revenue stream as well. It's going to be hopefully more predictable than personal injury, which is literally one of the most unpredictable areas you could possibly go into as a lawyer. Yeah. So, I think that would be really good from a business perspective as well.
Wow. What are you hoping that people take away from this interview today?
I want people to know that there is power in owning your story and how you come to be where you are. Don't fight yourself, too. I fought myself for so long. So long. Talk about being a fighter, but I also fought myself. The first few times I took the bar, I figured I could will myself through, you know, the anxiety and depression. I could just will it. Yeah. You can't. Yeah. You can get pretty far, but you can't. Yeah. So realizing that it was okay to get help, and to not fight yourself. I was fighting a bar exam, and I was fighting myself. I mean, you are your own, literally you're your own worst enemy. It's so true. It is so incredibly true. You can literally convince yourself of the worst things in the world that nobody else would ever think about you. Yeah. Just don't fight yourself.
No, I just really appreciate you taking time. I mean, I know we had to reschedule and make things work, but I really appreciate you coming through. Can you let folks know where they can find you, follow you, and is there a link up for the book yet or not yet?
No, not yet. So we're getting everything going. So my website will be KathrynFBurmeister.com. We're getting that launched, but right now I can be reached at Kathryn@BurmeisterLawFirm.com. If you have any questions, comments, if you want to be connected with somebody that has similar, you know, ideas or been going through similar struggles, I'd be happy to facilitate that. I really just want people to know they're not alone.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And thank you all for tuning in here with Beyond the Brand. And hey, we'll check you later. Peace. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're going to come back in and make sure that you all check us out on iTunes. Check us out on all social media platforms. Go ahead and make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, share. You know, sharing is the big portion. Sharing is caring.
That's what I heard.
But thank you all again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later. Peace. I'm glad you said something. I totally forgot about that. Sometimes I get so into it.